Before testing, I predicted that the best tax preparation software was going to be TaxSlayer, and hot damn, I was totally right. What's TaxSlayer? My name is John Ross with Finance on a Budget. I'm going to strip away all the marketing nonsense and give you a straightforward comparison of all the major US tax software options for small businesses. I have had my own freelance and computer repair business for well over a decade, and I've always used TurboTax. This video is going to show you how it may have cost me a fortune in overpayments. TurboTax versus TaxSlayer versus TaxAct versus H&R Block. Tax software is expensive. No matter which one you buy, rent, lease, it's only good for a single use. They are all very expensive on the front end. But what the real question is, which one costs the most on the back end? I systematically entered the same information into 4 of the leading products: TurboTax, TaxSlayer, TaxAct, and H&R Block. I have no affiliation with any of these companies, so it is a pure and simple personal evaluation. I thought that because taxes were nothing more than a mathematical equation, all of the different software options available would spit back basically the same tax refund. Math is math, right? Well, boy, was I wrong. If you would like to continue watching videos that save you money, please be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Upfront costs. On the surface, before purchasing, the prices seemed to vary wildly. However, that was just a marketing ploy. It mostly came down to how much they were going to charge extra for the state filing. TurboTax includes the state taxes into the initial price. This is why they seem to cost significantly more than the competition. However, everyone else listed one price for federal and charged extra for the state. Upon realizing this, the purchase price difference wasn't nearly as noticeable. They're all pretty much the same. I have always used TurboTax, and I've always found it to be fairly easy to use. This year, I would put in some extra effort to try the other online software so that you can get the best bang for your buck. None of them are cheap, but my general experience is that it's less about the upfront money and more about the overall experience and who can save you the most at tax time given the exact same information. I'm a freelancer with my own business. I have needed to use TurboTax Home and Business for forever now. Between rental property and business deductions, I've had little choice. In this video, I want to compare the most popular and cost-effective options available today. 1040 EZ Form. If you are a simple 1040 EZ filer that has nothing special to calculate, then you can actually file online for free, no need for anything else. Just go to freefile.intuit.com. There, you can find resources to the underlying TurboTax source code for free. One major limitation is the lack of support for student loans. The other is that the income limitation is at $72,000 per year. This is a painfully deliberate way for them to get you to pay for their software. For me, my taxes are pretty complex, so I need to work off the top-tier offerings for each of the different programs that we're going to be testing out. Importing basic information from last year's 1040 form. TaxSlayer only got the most basic items like the names, addresses, and well, that was about it. All of my W-2s, 1099s, and business information needed to be added by hand. This was terribly inconvenient when it was all available right there during the import, but I suffered through it and manually entered everything by hand. After signing up for H&R Block, it asked me to import either last year's TurboTax file or a PDF. It accepted neither, saying that the file format was not supported. Of course not. It did allow me to upload my wife's W-2 though. Unfortunately, it would not accept a valid employer EIN, saying that it was an invalid number. I had to make up extra numbers. I want to emphasize this. H&R Block would not accept a valid employer federal identification number. I looked it up, and they talked about how the employer needed to get a longer or shorter number depending on your state. Are you kidding me? Because of this and the hassle that it brings, this was a major red flag of a problem. Then I went over to TaxAct. It didn't even offer to import anything at all. So I had to set it up all manually, including W-2s, 1099s, as well as the rest of my business information. The last one that I needed to do was TurboTax. This one has the home field advantage, and I can import my taxes from last year. It imported my previous year's information at about 95% success. One odd thing was the 1099 MIS forms, which are now 1099 NEC forms. I have 2 regular clients that use this every single year. So I would have expected TurboTax to have imported it without issue like every other year. Oddly, they were not being calculated as income. I clicked on the Forms button, and sure enough, they were listed, even though the graphic interface never saw it. I had to delete them both and enter them both manually. I came across other smaller items that I won't bother you with, but this is definitely the buggiest version of TurboTax I've ever used. But in the end, it seems to have worked itself out. TurboTax Desktop was faster than its online counterparts. It also had a much better visual interface, and the desktop program was not limited to the online coding that looks quite 2005. Beyond the aesthetics, it was a desktop client that provided the most information as I worked, but more on that in a bit. Moving forward. For some strange reason, TaxSlayer did not know that consulting is a standard identifying business code. I had to make something up, so I chose to be an investment banker, which I had chosen from its pull-down menuing system. This matters because it told me that that was the wrong code too. Seriously, what is wrong with these highly priced softwares? I am literally making numbers up just to keep this comparison moving. I chose collection agency and moved on. However, this is not really acceptable to me. While not as egregious as H&R Block's employer identification number glitch, still, it's a big problem. Up to this point, my favorite is still the desktop version of TurboTax. While I'm quite fluent in it, used it for like 10 years, everything just seems to be available at once and you can freely jump around. I have the most information available on the screen at the same time. The others just seem to have a narrow view for the overall user experience. Although I found TaxAct to start off the cleanest by gathering the most relevant information up front and displaying what it knows. For example, only TurboTax and TaxAct showed both the federal and the state forms as I worked. Additionally, while most showed clear negative numbers like negative 318 in red, TaxAct simply said owed 318 in general font and color. At a glance, it looked like everything was fine, the same as being a positive number, even though it was painfully not. Now what? Let's continue to add progressively more complex situations into the mix. I thought that my business was going to be the first issue, but actually it was unemployment. TurboTax offered me $59, TaxSlayer offered me $51, and TaxAct was last at $50. This is odd, as I am entering in the exact same information. This should be a simple math equation, as they all started off at the same place, but apparently not. I am extremely curious how TurboTax managed to get an extra $9 out of it. H&R Block did not allow me to start the state filing without finishing federal paperwork in its painful entirety. This is a huge negative, as I had to fake my way through the entire federal section just to simply get the state information on the screen. This is yet another huge negative for H&R Block. After adding in the 1099 NEC forms, which hung up TurboTax, and all of the relevant Schedule C information for my business, here's what I ended up with. H&R Block was federal negative 318 and plus $50 for the state. TaxSlayer was minus 318 for federal and plus $51 for the state. TurboTax was minus $562 and negative $26 for the state. And lastly, TaxAct was negative $608 federal and $46 state. The simple math takeaway is that H&R Block and TaxSlayer were the overall most profitable winners, being off by a single dollar each. As I had several issues with H&R Block, TaxSlayer needs to be the winner, even though TurboTax Desktop was the most comprehensive to use. TaxAct was the worst of the lot, costing me the most in taxes. I would love to know why, but unless I want to pay TaxAct an extra $100, I have no idea. Conclusion. When including the upfront cost for TurboTax, best interface at $117, and then TaxSlayer, best value of $94.90, the clearest winner of this comparison is TaxSlayer, ultimately saving me $219 over the competition. So you need to decide how important Intuit's closed system of Quicken, Mint, and QuickBooks ultimately means for you. If you don't use the other software, go with TaxSlayer and you'll save a bunch. If you need to import from other software, then go with TurboTax. In the end, TurboTax gave me the detailed and itemized control to offset my 1099 NECs, with valid business deductions that none of the other products really offered. Overall, I felt as though TurboTax's ability to display large amounts of information at once really gave me the bird's eye view that I needed when I wanted it. The Schedule C in TaxAct was a little bit light on the details. The broad strokes are there, but it didn't overly customize my home office as well as it could have. I think it went with a more standardized deduction. This is likely why it came in last, costing the most overall. By comparison, H&R Block had a fairly robust Schedule C for the deductions, comparable with TurboTax. However, my least favorite software was definitely H&R Block. The entire interface was clunky, forceful, and uninspiring. It was difficult to navigate, and it made little sense to me. For example, I wanted to add a 1099 NEC as a freelancer, and off it went on my full business profile. As I mentioned, it failed to identify a valid W-2 employer ID number, So I had to rule out this product pretty early on. Considering everything now on the table, I would still choose Intuit's TurboTax. It was the easiest to use and it allowed me to fine-tune every step of the way. It also dominates the marketplace. If I wasn't already in their ecosystem, then TaxSlayer would have been the clear value winner. Be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thanks for watching.